for yielding, and I do want to join my other colleagues in thanking the House and the Senate and the chairman for calling this conference together and acknowledging all of the distinguished members of this conference committee. I've been on the House Budget Committee for over 4 years, and I just am not accustomed. I have not, in all this time, become accustomed to how we, in this democracy, can continue to attempt to balance the budget by doubling down on a failed economic theory of just providing more and more and more tax benefits to the wealthiest 1% of Americans, while just literally throwing not only the poor under the bus, because I know on a bipartisan basis people don't have that much regard for the poor, but we're doing it to displaced workers, to working moms, at the expense of our infrastructure, the disabled, infants and children who can't work, veterans transitioning back into our community, our debt-ridden students who are trying to take care of us in our elder years, our elderly, our infirm. It is just amazing to me that 69% of the majority's non-defense budget cuts come from low-income people, from moderate income programs in both the House and the Senate. It does it at the expense of stuff that used to be bipartisan, like road construction and taking care of our roads and bridges. And so I just think what we're doing is dangerous. It'll eviscerate our safety net and drive millions more into poverty. As an example, I just absolutely am aggrieved by the SNAP cuts proposed in this budget. This so-called cut to prosperity without asking the wealthiest to provide one single dime is just outrageous. As Janet Yellen, the chair of the Federal Reserve, recently said, and I quote, "The extent of and continuing increase in inequality in the United States greatly concerns me. It is no secret that the past few decades of widening the inequality can be summed up as a significant income and wealth gains for those at the very top and stagnant living standards for the majority. I think it's appropriate to ask whether this trend is compatible with values rooted in our nation's history, among them the high value Americans have traditionally placed on equality of opportunity." So I oppose these draconian budget cuts, but there's one thing I want to commend the Senate on. The senators, on a bipartisan basis, including both of my senators from Wisconsin, established a deficit-neutral reserve fund to allow workers to earn paid sick leave. I think that that's a real good starting point for helping our economy and for helping working Americans. Families without paid sick leave suffer tremendously. An average 3.5 days of pay loss is equivalent to about a month's worth of groceries. Paid sick leave is good for the economy and it's good for our society. Families have to make agonizing choices, and particularly women when they don't have sick time. They're more likely to use emergency room care, and given the standstill we're having over health care, I think we can ill afford more uncompensated care, adding to the 1.3 million emergency room visits that we have. I don't think we can afford an extra $1.1 billion. Just let me end by saying, I think it's admirable to try to deal with our deficit and to have a balanced budget, but I am so sorry to see that we are willing to do this at the expense of our democracy. In 1928, when our nation went into the first depression, we had inequality greater than it had ever been. 2008, when we saw the great recession here in our country, again, inequality was greater than it had ever been. Caution, my colleagues.